Hi, so welcome to the first in a 20-day read through of Exodus. We've done Genesis, hopefully you followed the way all the way through that, and now we're on to Exodus. So it continues the story from when Genesis left off and moves on into continuing the story of Moses, who we stay with for the entirety of the book. So today I'm going to be reading from the NIV, the New International Version, and we will see what happens if I stay awake. Exodus 1. When Jacob went to Egypt, he took his sons, and each son took his own family with him. These are the names of the sons of Israel: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Benjamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. There was a total of 70 people who were descendants of Jacob. Jacob's son Joseph was already in Egypt. Sometime later, Joseph and his brothers died, along with all the people who had lived at that same time. But the people of Israel had many children, and their number grew greatly. They became very strong, and the country of Egypt was filled with them. Then a new king began to rule Egypt, who did not know who Joseph was. The people of Israel are too many and too strong for us to handle. If we don't make plans against them, the number of their people will grow even more. Then, if there is a war, they might join our enemy and fight us and escape from our country. So the Egyptians made life hard for the Israelites. They put slave masters over them, who forced the Israelites to build the cities of Pithom and Ramesses and supply centres for the king. But the harder the Egyptians forced the Israelites to work, the more the Israelites grew in number. And they spread out, so the Egyptians became very afraid of them. And they demanded even more of them. They made their lives bitter. They forced the Israelites to work hard to make bricks and mortar and to do all kinds of work in the fields. The Egyptians were not merciful to them in all their painful work. 2 Hebrew nurses named Shiphrah and Puah helped the Israelite women to give birth to their babies. The king of Egypt said to the nurses, "When you are helping the Hebrew women give birth to their babies, watch. If the baby is a girl, let her live. But if it is a boy, kill him." But the nurses feared God, so they did not do as the king told them. They let all the boy babies live. Then the king of Egypt sent for the nurses and said, "Why did you do this? Why did you let the boys live?" The nurses said to them, "The Hebrew women are much stronger than the Egyptian women. They give birth to their babies before we can get there." God was good to the nurses, and the Hebrew people continued to grow in number, so they became even stronger. Because the nurses feared God, he gave them families of their own. So the king commanded all his people, "Every time a boy is born to the Hebrews, you must throw him into the Nile River, but let all the girl babies." Exodus 2. Now a man from the family of Levi married a woman who was also from the family of Levi. She became pregnant and she gave birth to a son. When she saw how wonderful the baby was, she hid him for 3 months. But after 3 months, she was not able to hide the baby any longer. She got a basket and covered it with tar so that it would float. She put the baby in the basket, and then she put the basket among the tall stalks of grass at the edge of the Nile River. The baby's sister stood a short distance away to see what would happen to him. Then the daughter of the king of Egypt came to the river to take a bath, and her servant girls were walking beside the river. When she saw that the basket in the tall grass, she sent her slave girl to go get it. The king's daughter opened the basket and saw the baby boy. He was crying, so she felt sorry for him and said, "This is one of the Hebrew babies." Then the baby's sister asked the king's daughter, "Would you like to go and find me a Hebrew woman to nurse the baby for you?" The king's daughter said, "Go." So the girl went and got the baby's own mother. The king's daughter said to the woman, "Take this baby and nurse him for me, and I will pay you." So the woman took her baby and nursed him. When the child grew older, the woman took him to the king's daughter, and she adopted the baby as her own son. The king's daughter named him Moses because she had pulled him out of the water. Moses grew and became a man. One day he visited his people and saw that they were forced to do work that was very hard. He saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew man, one of Moses' own people. Moses looked all around and saw that no one was watching. So he killed the Egyptian and hid his body in the sand. The next day Moses returned and saw two Hebrew men fighting each other. He said to the one that was in the wrong, "Why are you hitting one of your own people?" The man answered, "Who made you our ruler and judge? Are you going to kill me as you killed that Egyptian?" Moses was afraid and thought, "Everyone knows I killed the Egyptian." When the king heard what Moses had done, he tried to kill him. But Moses ran away from the king and went to live to the land of Midian. There he sat down near a well. There was a priest in Midian who had 7 daughters. His daughters went to that well to get water to fill the water troughs for their father's flock. Some shepherds came and chased the girls away, but Moses defended the girls and watered their flock. When they went back to their father Reuel, he asked them, "Why have you come home early today?" The girls answered, "The shepherds chased us away, but an Egyptian defended us. He got water for us and watered our flock." He asked his daughters, "Where is this man? Why did you leave him? Invite him to eat with us." Moses agreed to stay with Jethro, and he gave his daughter Zipporah to Moses to be his wife. Zipporah gave birth to a son, and Moses named him Gershom, because Moses was a stranger in a land that was not his own. After a long time, the king of Egypt died. The people of Israel groaned because they were forced to work very hard. When they cried for help, God heard them. God heard their cries, and he remembered the agreement that he had made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He saw the troubles of the people, and he was concerned about them. So there are the first 2 chapters of Exodus for you. Interesting to note that, between verses 7 and 8, there's approximately like a 300-year gap. So we start absolutely concurrent with Genesis, the end of Genesis into Exodus, but then right at the start of Exodus there's that 300-year gap. So it's interesting to me to think about how much people forget what's just gone on. They've just saved Egypt from this huge famine, but that's forgotten about, that's gone in the past, and now they're just being treated as slaves. Interesting also to me is the important place that women play in this story. That right at the beginning, actually, those 2 Hebrew midwives are the impetus for the story. If it weren't for them, there would be no story. If it weren't for Moses' mother and sister, it's all women that are acting this out, and you need to watch out for those things, because in an otherwise completely patriarchal, man-driven story, it's a real important point that God actually is working his purposes through men and women, that they're both together in that. So that's really important. Moses has been taken out of the water. I was shocked at just how much he obviously looked about. Oh, is anyone looking before he killed that Egyptian? That struck me, that he's a murderer, and he thought about it. He thought he was going to do something. He looked and checked to see if he'd get caught, and then did it, and that really struck me this time. So hopefully you'll have found some interesting bits too, and you will join me for the next 2 chapters in the next video. All right, thank you.